Good evening. You're listening live to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob. Alongside me tonight, coming in hopefully shortly with some technical difficulties, is Professor Pixel, also from the Central Florida area. As many of you know, I'm broadcasting to you live from the Pine Hills Palace, just west of Orlando, Florida, where Max and Daisy, my German Shepherds, patrol the grounds in suit of people that shouldn't be there. And speaking of things that shouldn't be there, as Professor Pixel jumps in, I got to tell you, Pixel, I made the mistake of going on for what the hype was because it wasn't self-generated about this movie called Violent Night, which is, of course, got David Harbour's Santa Claus, sort of, kind of, and a Die Hard ripoff that's supposed to be a holiday thing. And what was interesting is I saw so many people that I know out in public saying, "Oh man, did you see the trailer for this? It's like Die Hard. It's going to be an action-packed bonanza. It's got John Leguizamo in it." Unfortunately for him, although I'm sure he got a good paycheck. And so I said, "You know what? What the hell? Tis the season to be merry and all that crap. Let me go ahead and check out what's supposed to be, the greatest Christmas movie of all time since Die Hard." And there's something to be said for movies that you don't like for whatever reasons, the messaging, the acting, um, the subject matter. That's why we talk about things during Extreme Movie Show, because we're not always going to agree. And I'm going to agree and then disagree violently with you because this movie did not upset me like, say, Prey, which I just thought was crap. Well, Prey was okay, but just
I really liked Prey, so
and discussing this thing because everyone says this is phenomenal. I think you could argue that this movie's horrible in so many ways, but I think the worst thing about it is to sit there and say, I'm not even going to get angry about how bad it is because it's just not worth it. Um, this movie sucks. It's horrible. It's not fun to me. It's, Prey. I use that as an example. That was a movie that it looks good. Yeah, it's preachy, messagey, PC-ish. You can go that angle, which we generally avoid here on the Extreme Movie Show. But it's something, but it kind of still doesn't really feel like the Predator films to me. So I don't know if that it really is. But when I watched this movie, I went, "Wow, the writing's awful. There's no characters worth watching." I feel like I'm watching the sheriff from Stranger Things in here, not David Harbour. And I felt like everybody's just kind of play acting at the roles, and it just doesn't work at all in here for me. And I think the writers have very little experience under the belt. It really, really shows because today's world, they're getting younger and younger with less experience, and this is how bad movies have gotten. And the whole idea of having a Christmas movie and being horrific is, basically January, the beginning of the year is when you'd have films that were throwaways. You need to fill in the slot before you got into the spring season or February for romance. So we saw over the past, say, 10 years or so, a horror movie or two being put out there. Blumhouse is known for this. But because some of them have done well, they've decided to move them up into the Christmas season. And while we just like plenty of horror here on the Extreme Movie Show, this movie's really not worth anybody's time. I find nothing really redeeming about it or even stupid or, hey, that one scene where they do this, it just doesn't work and it completely falls flat for me. Start to finish, everything about it. I didn't laugh once. I didn't cry once. I didn't whatever. And where I'm not even talking about how PC clean it is or whatever you want to call that kind of stuff. The way they insert all that stuff in the films these days, it's a mess from start to finish. And I think you think it's bad, but I sense joy in your voice, sir. Give me your initial take.
it's funny. I was laughing through most of it because this isn't a good movie. This is a very bad movie. It's a very bad movie that I loved. I loved watching it. I thought it was so damn ridiculous, and it knew it was ridiculous. That's why they're all playing. They don't really have anything to do, and the ridiculous amount of violence in this movie is wonderful. I loved that as well.
See,
Oh,
I thought the violence in here, I thought if they actually toned it down, G-rated, it might have been slapstickish. But when you try to go, oh yeah, we're going to be funny and cute, and then have this gore and amp it up, that it doesn't work. And here, I thought it didn't look good at all.
I really disagree. I
Okay.
don't know when the guy got a star right through the eye and then he plugged it in and his head set on fire. That was wonderful. I loved it. I loved watching Santa kill this guy. Uh,
At
um,
least Bullet Train, that I did not think was very good at all, and I think you like that too.
I did like that too.
At least that had a sense of style to it. You could argue whether it worked for you or not, but it was consistent. Here, it's okay. We see drunken Santa at the beginning, and he's bitching about how bad things are today or whatever. And I just go, I'm not seeing this character. I'm seeing the sheriff here talk or whatever. And you know, he goes to leave, and the lady at the bar, he chases him upstairs, like, "Hey, you can't go up there. If you fall down, I'm liable," and all that. And he goes away and his reindeer and all that, and he circles around, but because he'd been pounding too many brewskis, he pukes on her.
All
Not
over.
funny.
It,
Just
it was gross. But no, I think that sets the tone because it's not a good scene. You're right. That's not the part that's hilarious. It's watching Santa slaughter these people. Just that's what I feel is everything worth watching this movie for. Because the acting is not good. The story isn't good. I mean, you're really going to support the crappy guy that's trying to get his life together by stealing his mother's stolen millions. That's not really a wholesome thing. The only wholesome thing is the kid, and she can be. She's annoying with how she's trying to be that. Oh, I'm the good child that redeems Santa. It's stupid. You're right. I love it because it's one of those movies that's just so bad that I could watch this every holiday season and just laugh my ass off because I can't believe that this movie got made.
so I can absolutely believe it was made, and that's part of why I didn't laugh at it, because this is the new low and standard. And yeah, there's been disgusting bits of graphic violence in movies in the 70s, 80s, and shock and all this other kind of stuff. And what I've said before too, kind of like with slasher films, you know, we talk about Halloween actually being a great film, um, and everyone says, "Oh, Halloween spawned nothing but slasher ripoffs because it's widely successful independent film, the most of all time until you know the late '90s and all that, Blair Witch or whatever." And I go, you know, when you're gonna do something that's a ripoff, okay, that's fine. If you're going to blatantly in the movie use Home Alone as a ripoff thing, okay, that's fine. But you got to add your spin on it, right? You've got to make it somehow unique to what yours is. And
Mhm.
it seemed like this was just made on a whim. I'm sure everybody got paid. People were talking about it. I guess it was a really good trailer for people because I thought the trailer was obviously better than the movie. And it's just it's a
Mhm.
waste of time. There's look, Home Alone, I'm not a big fan of, but it's quirky and goofy enough where people really like it. You could talk about
Yeah.
Christmas Vacation really being like a family type movie, like the vacation movies, and you know everybody in it. Here, you get the chick from Righteous Gemstones, and she was really sharp in that. She plays the same type of character in here. You got the so-called white boy influencer, yo, 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 getting on and talking about, doesn't do a good at all. I mean, and so it's like, you're really going, I know these are supposed to be spoofs of certain art types of characters, but that's what they're doing. It's like you just hand somebody and say, "Hey, I want you to just say this and act like you're a goofy whatever." Okay, I'll do it. You get you get the you get the guy with the you know, that's a part of the interracial couple with the estranged wife, and he's a bitch, and he's pleading with this woman about, you know, staying together, and I'll quit my special job and this that, only to find out he's the bad guy at the end. And I
Well,
admit,
he's a bad guy.
well, I
He's not the bad guy because
but
the bad guy
if
is
it was
still
only
Mr.
a
Scrooge.
good human being, though, maybe all these things wouldn't have fallen into place. So he's the key, right?
Well,
Because you know, mama of the household, Beverly D'Angelo, which was nice to kind of see her. She's definitely getting up there. I haven't seen her in a while. Of course, she was in Vacation and some
but
other things. I liked her being kind of a bitch in here. I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But this is even shot like Die Hard, where they walk in and you see the people in the background looking over their shoulders, and the camera pans to it. And it's not that it's supposed to be a huge surprise, but it's like, give me something. Give me one scene. Give me one thing that is a little different, or one thing that you do through it, and they don't.
I
He
don't think
sews
they get.
himself up with the paper and all that, the Christmas paper. Am I supposed to go, ha ha? That's funny. That's rich. Oh, it's Christmas paper. Why didn't I think of that? No. Oh my god! And you got to admit, the second act, because this is kind of a long movie, drags. Am I right?
Uh, I mean, I think. Uh, No, 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 because I wasn't thinking about Die Hard at all. Really, I
Oh, come
wasn't.
on.
I know that obviously when he goes ahead. Oh wait, what what are
Time
you?
out.
Are you out
Have
of
you seen
work?
Die Hard?
Yes, I've seen Die Hard. Of
I
course, I've seen Die
believe we've
Hard.
covered it here on the Extreme Move Show, but you and I have never really discussed that. So, okay,
Okay.
just making sure that you have, because you being the
Yeah.
young 20 something here on the Extreme Movie Show, there's a lot of movies that you haven't
Yeah.
seen. And so
That
that's one of the
that's more
joys
than
of going
fair.
over it. Yeah.
I've seen Die Hard though.
Okay.
It's not a case of me not seeing it and so, oh, this is just my first experience of it, and
Right.
me finding out that Die Hard is Die Hard's better. Well, that goes into the conversation of is Die Hard considered a Christmas movie to you, Rob?
No, it has nothing to do with Christmas at
This
all.
is undeniably a Christmas movie. So it's
It's not.
it is a
Well,
Christmas movie.
he's supposed to really be Santa, so you could say, "Oh, because he really is
Yes.
Santa Claus, it's a Christmas movie." Christmas
When
is
the
not
sack when the sack gets thrown in the fire, a million children's dreams was in
not
that.
funny.
I found it funny. I found it hilarious.
Really?
Yeah, I did.
What
I
about his
did.
iPad,
His
his
iPad.
Kindle?
Oh, you mean the naughty not nice list?
Just to it was digital. It wasn't even like an old scroll or something, you know?
Well,
It was
it
like
was a scroll that he pulled up, and it was like it was supposed to be this holographic, naughty, nice. Yeah. I I didn't really even think about it. I didn't give it two thoughts. I was trying to read it. That was the thing because I wanted to see what they were saying about each person that came up, and I was waiting for Mr. Scrooge to come up, and there was a couple funny things just written there, but I can't remember them. But no, I mean, I really did. I had fun with it. That was the thing. Expected this to be bad, and I didn't even know if it would be to the point that I'm glad that it is. I mean, there was somebody right behind me in the theater. You said that he stood up, stared at the screen, and said, "This is the best Christmas movie I've ever seen." I obviously he was joking. It was in that way. This is the best. But I think this is definitely the kind of movie that that guy would definitely be watching every year because it's stupid. It's not performed well or anything. It's not going to go into some great vault of cinema. But it is bad enough that you will be able to enjoy it this holiday season. That's how I feel about it.
well, let's kinda talk about that a little bit. Now, let me get the heavy
Sure.
part out of the way. With Christmas, of course, you talk about Christ, you talk about Christianity, you talk about Jesus and all that stuff, and I can understand how some people may be turned off by that. So, right, wrong, or, otherwise, it's a thing, at least here in the United States where we're based. So, we do have a bit of an international audience too, because we do cover a lot of, genre films from outside the United States, and that's intentional, whether it's Italian horror or Spanish, whatever, or martial arts and everything. A lot of our visitors are not unique to the United States. So the idea of Christmas being kind of sanitized and talked about, I've not liked a lot of the old classic ones, like Miracle on 34th Street or this or that, because of a lot of it's just pure emotional manipulation when you really think about it. And I'm not the biggest Jimmy Stewart fan in the world either. And it's not because I dislike the guy personally or like that. I'm sure he was a swell, but
It was
just his
wow.
delivery. But the point being is that it got sanitized like a lot of things, once America got out of World War One and two, and as we had our post-war boom here in the United States for it to, hey, it's a good excuse to have a holiday and to do shopping. So the commercialization of holidays, Christmas in particular, even Charlie Brown during the Charlie Brown Christmas, which I think is a very good one, had pointed that out a long time ago. And so it made movies like in the 80s, like Home Alone, even though it's kind of dumb and silly, oh, a go-to one. There's others as well, and we do like to discuss what would be appropriate for Christmas. And obviously, this
Oh
just
my
takes place
gosh.
during Christmas. It looks like it was filmed in Detroit. I'm sure it wasn't, but I'm like, man, it's doom and gloom outside with all this friggin' snow. John Leguizamo is the only one I thought brought any heat and believability into his character in this whole movie. He's always a great character actor. People like him, but when he shoots the guard and then he goes in there and he's about talking about how he's going to shoot her, and then they go around the room before, of course, the hijinks continue. He's like, so shut the fuck up, or blow you. You know, it's like I'm buying what he's selling, but nobody else. It's like they all said, hey, let's just kind of mark ourselves and make a movie for ourselves where we joke about stuff rather than, hey, let's try to make a movie that has scenes that might be funny. That's why I found it really devoid of any creativity, lacking anything that was just, like I say, laughable. There's not one scene where I went, huh, or laughed or chuckled or smiled, because void of any creativity. These guys were the Sonic the Hedgehog movie, which I did not see. So I don't know how that was, but my only interest in seeing that would have been because of Jim Carrey. He brings the energy typically. And here it's just like, wow. I mean, there's so many other things that you could go out and watch and enjoy. And I guess to your point, if it's the kind of movie where you know what it's going to be early on and you find that entertaining, and how they do it, the rest of the movie is entertaining, I guess. But when you start watering stuff down with really, really awful action scenes and stuff that's not really particularly gruesome, but just laughably funny,
I,
I don't know. I think you get desensitized to it, don't you?
I don't know. I thought, there's a Home Alone scene in this where the girl sets up these crappy traps,
She's
and
appropriating something.
but it takes that and it goes ahead and it adds blood to it when the guy falls off the step and his jaw ends up with the screw right through his mouth, or sorry, the nail right through his mouth. Ooh, I loved it. And then when he gets, the poor guy, his head gets crushed in with the bowling ball.
So in Die Hard, the thing about it is like, of course, everybody goes back to Die Hard because that actor recently passed away, and the younger kids today know him from the Harry Potter movies. I
Alan
forget
Rickman.
Alan Rickman. There you go. And of course, he talks about suits because in the '80s, suits were still cool. They no longer were cool after the '80s, nor was fashion really. Um, at least you got a sense of, yeah, these are the bad guys, and they're like Euro trash. So they've got a certain difference to them, but you felt like they were somewhat competent, even though they had goons. And so, even though you were watching this guy on his own, John McClane, go through the building and do all this stuff, you're like, okay, I get it. How he's an everyman forced in a situation. How can he be the hero? In this movie here, you've got a bitter Santa Claus bitching about how people are today, but he's still,
Yeah.
of course, doing it. He's a drunk. I guess that's supposed to be funny, but it's like, and you're supposed to be the hero. You're supposed to find the magic of Christmas because some girl indulges in these dark, violent fantasies, and you find that acceptable. It's not consistent. It doesn't work. And like I say, the action is just bad. We've talked before about quick cuts. We've talked about how, like I say in the TV show Kung Fu, we got like a little 100-pound Asian woman beating up everybody, and how all that stuff everybody actually thinks can happen in real life because it's so prevalent on TV today that when we see a big guy, David Harbour's not small, let's see him beat the shit out of somebody. Let's see him do something really different and unique that we haven't seen before. But none of these kills were unique.
You
They
didn't
open no.
you didn't appreciate him getting that hammer and then going ahead and using it on all of the special kill squad that comes in, then throwing the guy through the what's it called? Oh shit! It was
When
tearing.
people run one at a time surrounding somebody ninja style, it's automatically not a good scene because it's zero effort on the directors and the action people. And to that point, a lot of people can't film action anymore because they don't know how.
I don't see it, man. I don't see what you're seeing. I'm just seeing a good old time.
Oh God, this is so. The one thing people were telling me about is like, oh, he took the candy cane and he was sucking on, it, he got it sharp, and he stabbed people with it. I'm like,
Yeah.
yeah, that's funny.
I, I,
Not
uh,
funny.
I was okay with it. I thought it was entertaining for the split second, but it was the other kills that were getting my attention. But I think it's just a case of us just disagreeing with. We both agree that this movie is bad. We both agree that. But I think because it's bad, because it's taking those the classic Christmas tropes, throwing it in there, and then using that to show this gory, violent, violent night. I think it's great because of that. Not in a way that I could say that if you want a genuinely good Christmas movie, yeah, no, you should watch this. No, no, this is for fun. This is to sit around with friends, drink a little, and go ahead and watch it. But you know, if you want a real Christmas movie to watch, A Miracle on 34th Street, I say that's worth a watch. And there's others there.
So did you want this movie to be kind of like more of a GPG family friendly movie, or did you want it to be completely gory and kind of serious?
Oh, I wanted it gory. I mean, you said it's in the name, Violent Night.
No, but it wasn't scary, gory, or ooh,
I
kind of
didn't need
gory.
scary gory. I think that that's a part of its. Like I said, it's terrible, but it's charm right there. That it's this do fantasy land with the blood and gore on top of that.
Well, that's what I'm saying because I think that if you're in a position like I'm a Mel Gibson fan, so a year or two ago, whenever Fat Man came out, we reviewed it here, and they try to play it a little serious in there, kind of, sorta, with a little wink and nudge too. So you're like, oh, okay. So at least they put a little bit of effort into what they were trying to do. Here, there's none, and that's what's insulting about it. But to the point where I can say, oh, this is screwed up, or maybe this is bad, but I like this. There's nothing watchable about it, and it's interesting because in a little bit when we go live. Um, at 7 o'clock Eastern here, we're going to be talking about in Western, which we don't do too much of yet here on Extreme Movie Show. We're going to be talking about a movie called El Dorado. And in our earlier stream tonight, when we talked about Dark Shadows, episode 2 of the revival from 1991, I made the comment about how if there's no bad scenes and things kind of move along well, you're at least a proficient director. Doesn't mean you like it or not or what. And here, there was no good scenes. There wasn't that one scene. There wasn't that one creative thing. And there was no characters that you really liked. And okay, we get the goon hit squad that shows up to get slaughtered. I get it. It's just more bodies. That's fine. We get the karate guy wannabe Jean-Claude Van Damme ass or whatever he's called. It's like that almost was mildly funny, but it'd only been funny if the guy was practicing Van Damme moves and if people knew who the hell he was. And maybe they did a split second of that earlier in the movie and they didn't. So that joke's lost on everybody except for the people. So they're trying to pop themselves with it. It's one of those kinds of things where I look at it and I go, well, at least put an effort into trying to make sense with your so-called jokes because it's just not there. And the worst thing you can say about a movie is just not that it sucks or pisses you off or you totally disagree with it or they did something wrong with it. It's just not worth your time. It's just bad. I mean, but again, I'm not really that emotionally wound up by it like some movies make me do. At least then it's getting a reaction out of me, and that's done something. This I just go, we should have reviewed Barbarian Queen 14 or something, It might have been a little more entertaining. So yeah,
Well, but it's tis the season.
it is. Well, hey, any other final thoughts before we close up?
Like I said, you're not coming in to watch the next great piece of cinema. You're coming in to have a have a fun time. It's not good, but hopefully you can find something to enjoy.
Or there you go, ladies and gentlemen. What this needed was more Dark Shadows and Fog Machines and that kind of cool shit from Dark Shadows.
We
But
wish
if you
everything could
like it,
be
that's
Dark
great.
Shadows.
Well, it would have been cooler. All right, guys, have a good night. Thanks for watching, listening. Enjoy it. If you got any suggestions, let us know here on the Extreme Move Show. For Professor Pixel and myself, have a good night. And as always, stay extreme.